just so you know.
You can start. We're good.
We are live.
What time do you show?
Are these lights on? Here. Are these lights on?
Did you say on or off?
Can you hear? I don't think they're working. Maybe something's working now.
Testing, testing. I think it's just got to be turned up.
So what is the push on these
If
microphones?
you'll mute it, but you have to push to mute.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's always live.
Otherwise it catches everything.
It catches everything. You push to mute it.
Testing,
Okay, so we're
testing.
good to go?
You think we're on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Oh.
through the system, Laura? Can you hear us through the system, or does it sound? I don't think they're on totally yet.
I can hear.
Oh, that's better.
Testing, testing.
Here's Steve.
Steve is on.
I'm just kidding.
I can hear Steve and I could hear your tapping, but I don't know if mine's working.
We're going to tap your microphone.
Oh,
Testing, testing.
No, I don't think mine's on.
I don't think mine is working either, Aaron.
a little rough. Welching.
Oh, mine is now.
Super.
Yeah, I think testing, testing.
Is yours, Tyra?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yep, it is now.
All right. Welcome to board meeting. Today's date is November 9th, 2022. We are at the district office, and in attendance we have board member Steve Black, board member Lori Mon, superintendent Nelson, board member Mary Shumway. We also have board member Lucille Cody and board member Nelson Yellerman, who are virtual, and we also have Tyrell Pemberton, business administrator, and other district staff. Thank you. And so I need a motion to approve our agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lucille, did you want to approve? I think we're good. Okay. All right, we will move to the Quest update, superintendent.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to, if I could, share two documents with you. The first one, I wanted to go back in time a little bit. If you remember in our, I think it was our 2017 school board meeting at Navajo Mountain, we talked about disparity in our district where we were looking at the faculties of mostly our elementary schools and seeing that our elementary schools in our river region, the faculty, the experience level of our faculties there was very different than the experience level of our mountain region. At that same time, there was a lot of work going on and a lot of factors coming together where there was some legislation passed to provide some money. I believe it was Senate Bill 124. And it was targeted at attracting and retaining quality teachers at San Juan High. So the board, we presented an idea to the board. The board, I believe, made a very courageous and bold move. You voted to adopt our Quality Teaching Incentive Program, our QTIP program. And the idea behind that QTIP program was that we would go out and we would identify certain positions to label them as a QTIP position, and then we would go out and try to attract experienced, successful educators that would come to San Juan School District and fill those positions and immediately change the dynamics of our faculties in these schools. We would attract talent and experience to come into these schools. And our hope was that with a short amount of time, we would see a similar situation in our river region with experience as we do in our mountain. Well, that was about 5 years ago. And I think and I just presented this a couple of weeks ago to the Native American Legislative Liaison Committee. I thought it would be good to also bring the board up to speed on this. So if we were to look at the data back in 2016, that is in front of you in this chart, you can see the disparity was very glaring. Monticello Elementary, LaSalle Elementary, Blanding Elementary, all 40% or higher of their educators at that time were 14 plus years or more experience. Montezuma Creek, Sabina Sky Elementary, and Bluff, the highest there was 15%, with the lowest being 0. Now, if this program has been successful, which I will tell you, I think it's been extremely successful, but the data ought to bear that out as well. And if you look at an update now from the school year 22-23, I think you see a dramatic change in our faculty levels of experience. In fact, Sabina Sky Elementary now has LaSalle has one teacher, so you've got to keep that in mind. But outside of that dynamic, Sabina Sky Elementary was 64% of their teachers with 14 plus years of experience or more is the most experienced elementary school faculty in the district. That is a dramatic change. You see Montezuma Creek's climbed to 50, and Bluff, even with 1 out of 5, but even out of the 1 out of 5, they have some very strong educators in that Bluff faculty, and it's at 20. But you do not see now the glaring disparity between the mountain region and the river region. And it's important to know that experienced teachers do so much in terms of what they do for a faculty and for a school. When you really get inside and you look at all the different areas that they have influence, it goes in every single direction. So this is helping principals share leadership. This is helping principals and teachers have professional development opportunities. They have resources available to them now that wouldn't have been afforded to them. This is helping a principal and new teachers be better supported through mentoring. This is helping better connections with the community. Our experienced teachers and those that have this experience, it makes a huge positive difference in so many areas. And so our entry-level teachers have been better supported, and we're retaining them better, and that's what the results are showing here. And we've even had a very high rate of retainment of our Q-tip teachers, which is one of the things we wondered, would they stay? Would we be able to retain them? So that's been very successful. The other two areas of of Senate Bill 124 was the signing bonuses and retention bonuses that are being paid, and growing our own through our own teaching pool. We've worked very closely with USU to grow our own and to have a couple of years ago we completed our first cohort, and we were able to hire, I think, 3 teachers, 4 out of that cohort. And so that was very successful to bring that type of talent from within. With our new NYCP grant, we're now going to be able to grow some of our own teachers and paras into teachers. So that's going to be successful as well and exciting. So I just wanted to, again, really compliment and the board for, in my opinion, being bold and leading out in a direction that was completely out of the box. But I think at this time, a quick look really shows that there's been tremendous success in this program. And it's exciting, and it's still very much viable, still very much happening, and the principals are speaking, I hear it often, of their support of the program. So I report that to the board, and if there's any questions, either me or Christy or Julie will try to answer, probably me or Christy. Christy oversees the Q-tip program, and we train these. All of our Q-tip teachers are trained. They're not just said good luck. They're trained a certain number of days a year, and they work very closely with their administration. It's been very successful.
Thanks. Any questions or comments? Nelson, Lucille, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Thank
One more
you.
thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to read this into the record. One other thing. If I could, I'd like, after much thought and reflection, I want to inform the San Juan School District Board of Education that I will officially resign for my position of Superintendent of Schools on August 31st, 2023. Though that is still a few months away, I informed the board this night so that you have all options available to you in your efforts to select the next superintendent of schools. I do publicly thank the Board of Education for your support and trust in me. Each day I've tried to do my best to help move the district forward, and I will continue this commitment until my last day has come. The district is so fortunate to have such a quality staff. I will always value my relationship with those who strive each day to best serve our students. Team San Juan is full of dedicated, hardworking individuals who rarely ask for credit or attention. I thank them for their support and friendship. Finally, I can't end without expressing my love, and appreciation for my wife. It's been so helpful in this position to go home each night to my best friend and greatest support. For nearly 34 years, she stood by my side and inspired me to believe in myself. I have always found San Juan School District to be a high-integrity organization that I could be proud to be a part of. It has been a great honor to lead such a quality organization for the past 5 years, and something that I will always cherish. Sincerely, Ron Nielsen. So I just wanted to let the board know that and let you take the steps that you feel are appropriate to move forward with finding and replacing a superintendent of schools.
Yeah, you realize that requires a vote. We might not vote for you.
I do appreciate your support. It's a very difficult decision, but I feel the time is right.
Okay. Well, I hope you spend all your retirement money in the first year. You have to come back. So. All right. Well, that is information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we appreciate your work that you've done with us. And of course, we've got a road ahead to figure that out. So, okay, we will move down to our discussion items. And number one, the Sage Potash information presentation will not be done as Mayor Hedgeland is ill. So we will move that to next month. So we are now going to go down to number two, the portrait of a graduate. And that will be the superintendent and the district leadership team.
Mostly me. Julie and Christy may weigh in on this as well. So I wanted to maybe give a little more information. This was actually a topic of our superintendent's meeting during the last week here. So, and I want to make sure the board is fully updated and abreast of some things that are happening. There is presently a committee that is working at the state level to look at graduation requirements in a very deep level. And we should expect that there will be some changes coming to statewide graduation requirements. This committee is looking at many states that have let out and are a little more maybe advanced or progressive in this area. And they're of course, looking at where they're at, what's went well, what has not gone well. And they're bringing that work back to Utah, and they've started some of this work as well. These things have happened. But in these other states, just some of the things that are being talked about and have possibilities of coming back to Utah, many of the states have now moved more towards an individualized pathway to graduation, where in the past our graduation requirements have been very, very cut and dried. They've been very you have to get so many credits. There has to be 4 language arts, 3 math. They've just been very detailed and cut and dried. And in some of the states now have moved in a direction where it can be personalized a little bit, where you can have multiple pathways to graduation that might lean a little more heavy in one area or the other. And it could be personalized to you. Still has the academic component, but possibly you can comp out of a language art credit if you can pass a certain assessment or something like this, which frees you up more time to lean your credits and your courseworks in a certain manner. So all of this is being talked about and worked through presently today, and I want the board to be aware of that. And one of the main areas that this ties into is the portrait of the graduate work that the state has done. Much of what we have adopted on our chart has been adopted from the work of the state and brought over to ours with some infusion from what we've gathered presently from our stakeholders. And it's a work in progress. Everything on there could look different next year than it looks today as we continue to work with our staff, our stakeholders, because definitely academic achievement will always be a part of graduation. But industry and stakeholders are now asking for more than ever to be a part of graduation. And so you see knowledge, skills, and attributes all being built in to the discussion of what really a graduate should possess when they are handed a diploma. So we've picked up the work. The state has encouraged all districts. We have a committee that's working on our portrait of a graduate. They reported last month. They gave you an update of where they're at. And I want you to know that that work ties in to this committee that's working over graduation requirements. And hopefully in the near future, it'll all tie together where we will be able to really talk about the things we want to see that our graduates possess and build within our schools programs and classes and pathways that we can see where these skills, where these attitudes, where this knowledge is being taught. Now, to go back to the discussion that we probably had the most of last board meeting, when our committee went through their process, they actually felt like there needed to be a guiding statement that guided this work and that really led out in what we're trying to accomplish. And that as we go to our stakeholders and we go to our staff and we continue this work, will be an overarching statement that'll help guide the work. And that's what when they came up with that and shared that statement, which is on the top of that board, then it was very clear by a number of people, me being one, that there should be thought that should be an updated mission statement. The committee felt very strongly about it, that was working on it, and others. And so that's what was presented back to this board in our last month's meeting, is the possibility of that being adopted as a present mission statement, because it is, in my opinion, going to drive the work that's going to be done in this area. All of this that's going to be seen is what's happening in the schools, how do we align everything on that chart, and how do we build these pathways to graduation. And so anyway, just be aware that that's kind of what's led us to that request and that this point. We had a very good discussion about it last month. Mary asked to maybe even meet with the DLT, and you've taken that opportunity, and you could certainly report on that. But I just bring that back with a little more information and a reminder, and again, even an opportunity again for the board to discuss and possibly adopt that or to look at it. But Mary, did you have anything you'd like to report or speak to with your?
My motion last month that the second and passed was just to include the school board in some kind of way with the mission statement. And then when I was talking to you, you said, do you want to meet with the DLTs via Zoom? And so I said, sure. And so
You did.
So I did, but the school board didn't have any, and maybe the school board doesn't want to, but have an opportunity to be part of that. If the school board just wants to pass it without having being part of the process, that's up to the school board. But that is what my motion was for the board to have a process where we look at it. And maybe that's included in, in doing this.
So do you feel that, because the work, I feel like the legwork was done with the district leadership team from the ground up to this. For us to come in on that, are we weighing opinions, or are we tearing it down to build it back up? Because I feel like we're coming in kind of about 3/4 the way with it done. Does
Or
that make
100%
sense?
of it done.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the process was flawed, because if the board is the one who says this is our mission statement, then we probably should have been part of that process along the way. And if it's not the board's mission statement, then we didn't need to be or don't need to be.
Okay.
But
Steve, do you have anything on the matter?
I guess I'm more along the lines of, I appreciate all the work that's been done, and I think it's an effective statement, and I guess I'm willing to approve it.
Okay. Nelson, do you or Lucille have any comments regarding the mission statement? Pardon me?
He asked for it to be written in Navajo at our last meeting. Was
So we
Can
could,
he
we
hear
could
us?
have it there and then below, correct?
We can certainly translate it into
Yeah,
Navajo. We
right.
plan on it.
Okay.
Can he hear us?
Can they,
Is he there?
Nelson? So, okay. Okay. And Lucille, did you have anything you'd like to comment on? Sure. Okay, so I guess we'll just take it to vote. Okay? Oh,
Very-
you're looking at that, okay. All right, we have the Utah Food Bank requests regarding the land discussions. Superintendent, you want to lead on that?
Yeah, I'll just let you know, we did talk a lot about this. There was some request to go back to the food bank and to clarify some very important matters, and I think those have all been agreed upon by the food bank. This new contract that you're seeing, I think, reflects those adjustments and improvements requests by the board. So I bring it back to you, and if you have questions, Tyrell will try to answer them, or I will.
All right.
But other than that, I think this reflects what the board, the interest of the boards were in this contract.
Okay, did anyone on the board have any concerns regarding this contract? Steve, you at all? No? Okay. Nelson, Lucille, did you have any concerns you wanted to voice before we move on? True. Okay, thank you. All right. Boy, we're cooking. Number 4. Secondary schools winter activities. We need to approve forms that are over 150 miles.
Yeah, if you've done this many times, these schools have now. We do not have Navajo Mountain on here, and Navajo Mountain has contacted me. They do believe that they will have an independent basketball team that will play a JV schedule mostly with other schools. And it will be a co-ed team from Navajo Mountain. We've done this in, not for a couple of years, but 3 or 4 years ago, they did have a co-ed team that would go and play JV teams from other schools in the district and in the surrounding area. So they will have a team. They won't be true Utah High School Association sponsored, but they will probably, oh, no, they're not on here. I didn't think they were. They're not on there. And you approved Whitehorse High School last month, so this would be all of the others except for Navajo Mountain.
Okay. Do we know when they may have theirs?
In December.
December?
Yep.
Okay.
And they won't have any games before then. They're planning on starting in January with
Oh,
games.
okay. So just like a 3-month.
Yeah, they'll
season
just
for them.
put a
Theirs
schedule
is
together.
just club ball.
Just
or
kinda-
Just a private or.
They're just, it'll be a high school sport, but they're not in, they are on independent status. So and most schools would not play them varsity to varsity because it would count as a game. And so they'll play them with a JV squad or a sophomore squad and give them the opportunity to have a team.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Any comments? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, they will be independent. They will not be Utah High School Association sponsored.
But they still basically will be through the school.
Mhm.
It's not just.
They have to follow all district policy, all district
Right.
procedures.
Okay.
They just, because they do not play each and every year, it's hard to have them affiliated directly. They are a member of a region, but they're kind of in a unique situation where they don't have a certified team every year. And so they will play independently when they come on board with enough kids that wish to play. And then we're excited about providing the opportunity. Anything that I believe helps Navajo Mountain provide opportunity for their students, access to programs that other students in other schools have access to, is a very positive thing. So
That's awesome.
excited for it.
Okay. All right, our next item is the business administrator's contract renewal, and as we know, the board approves that contract, which will expire next year in 2023, but we do discuss and make that renewal or non-renewal in January, so go ahead with that.
I would just say this is absolutely just a heads up. I just felt like if the board had a little heads up, if you want to put any thought into any way you want to see this process play out or go forward, if you want any information, if there's anything that you think would be helpful, having a little heads up and having a little pre-thought might be helpful to you. I think in the next two board meetings, December and certainly by the January one, Mr. Pemberton's contract says that by January you will have informed him of your intention to issue him a contract or not. So it's obviously going to play out in December and January, and I would just want to be able to facilitate whatever the board feels you would like to see to do that in a manner in which you would want to see it go forward. So
Okay.
it's just a heads up and something to be thinking about.
We do have the option to go into closed session if we choose to tonight to discuss, to kind of start that process if we would like. So just keep that in mind when we get to closed session. So, all right, Miss Laura Palmer, we're so glad you could join us. Come on up. We're going to talk about the school calendar.
Yeah, so we put one option up for you guys to review for next year's school calendar. This option is pretty identical to the schedule we're on this year. You see on there that there are the 2 additional teacher preparation days after fall break, and then also after the holiday break in December. The spring break also lines up with USU's spring break that year as well.
You're going to have happy parents with that one.
I know it doesn't happen
No.
very often.
Just by
Yeah.
chance it
Do
lines
we-
up.
It did.
Now, when I asked about having 2 screens up here, now can we have one that has the information we're talking about on? Is that possible? I mean, does it work that way? And then have one that shows people? Because I just went out of mine and I'm trying to get back into it.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
Thank
In
you.
March, the spring break.
Okay. Can they split, or is what is up there just this?
They can.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
But
Learn it.
You're pushing it on that one.
Sorry.
So,
I don't know anything about technology, so I'm impressed with anything anybody can do, and especially our technology people. So no pressure. I just wanted to see it because mine had gone out, but I'm back up now. So
my question
you.
is I have heard teachers love the day before coming back to a break. So like they have
Teacher
a
days?
Monday, the teacher days, yes. So they'll come back on a Monday, kids come back on a Tuesday after those breaks. Now I can,
January.
in March, of course, we don't have one. But we do have 3 days in August. Could we roll one of those to the 18th and then they start on the 19th? So that coming back from spring
wait, okay.
break, they have a teacher day on the 18th?
And then maybe start a day later in the fall. I mean, I could
I
put a
don't know.
calendar together and have you look at that maybe for next month to see if you like that option.
Yeah, the one thing that I've heard from teachers is that, so if they know they're not, so okay, let's say the October one, they know that they could leave on Friday and just walk out of the classroom because they knew that they could come back on Monday to prep, and that was a huge, they love that. That's kind of the feedback that I've gotten, and so when we don't do that in March, and we have one day off in April. And so that's kind of our long stretch where we don't have a lot of breaks. So that's the only reason I put that out there.
You know, it is on here as an action item, but I would recommend that we give the public some time to look at this, and so maybe by
and
next
maybe have
month.
some more options.
But could we maybe, if we didn't take action on this tonight, could we do a survey of our teachers?
Sure.
And because they would definitely love to have the teacher day there. The question I have is, would they rather have the 3 in August
Right.
or a teacher day there?
Well,
Because-
that
So-
might be the impact too, is the schools are pretty busy those first 3 days, and
Uh-huh.
a lot of trainings.
So I think we might need to ask them.
And
Now,
then,
I will,
and then we'll get all kinds of answers. I mean,
Well,
we'll
We'll
give
make
both.
everyone happy.
Maybe we just
Then what
do
do
the
we-
two count with this one and the other one based on what we hear back. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking for them, just the feedback that I've gotten from them.
And-
That
And I have another question about this calendar as well. The CCR days and the half day, I had from parents to teachers to a lot of comments. Maybe it's because it was new, but has that been reviewed? And do we want to continue with that half day? Was that overwhelmingly successful, or is that something that also needs to be considered and surveyed a little bit, and how well it worked with communicating with parents? Because
ask Christy and Julie. You probably got the
What?
most feedback.
and do we have enough feedback? I heard from lots and lots of parents that they didn't feel like, well, and maybe all schools did it different, but still had the half day, but
Or Barbara.
they didn't feel like there was that
especially. No.
opportunity to actually talk about their child and their and set goals for that. So
why,
Definitely could get additional feedback.
okay.
I think that's good, to keep their feedback. But it was different for every school as far as how they organized what they wanted that day to look like. Secondary was different than elementary, even in Arrow, different than San Juan High. It was a shift for sure for teachers because they, especially elementary, because they're used to seeing every parent.
Mm.
And so we had really started rethinking what really is the purpose, and that was a huge shift for parents as well in the elementary world. So we had kind of 50-50 feedback in the elementary world on that, but a lot of that was its newness, and the change and communication. The schools that sent out good communication had pretty good return. The schools that didn't have as good return from parents. So, so anyway, I think feedback is still good, but it did look different for every school.
And I think it will continue to look different because different schools are doing different things in their communities, also how they work. If you're in the same community, the family's traveling, you know, if you think about the river region, how far a lot of those families travel, and we're trying to hit
I wonder if I
our
should go to
highest
the mic.
need
I
or
don't know if our
doing
people
something a little
listen.
bit different to see my students at the elementary versus the high school. I will say that-
Christy, will you come up to the mic?
Sure.
Sorry, we forgot. We need to capture the audio. Sorry.
So what I can report though is we have had some of our highest turnout of parent engagement at some of our schools than we've had ever in the past. So
With
that's
the
been-
half a day,
It's been super exciting, and I can't necessarily attribute that all to the half a day. I think that's a variety of factors. Some of that of you know what's been going on in the river region, you know, with online schooling and parents finally able to come back and feel safe at school. So that could be a portion of that. But I think we have seen a lot of success, you know, with the half day, with just starting it out. Anytime you start a new initiative, there's a little bit of a adjustment for schools because we're doing things a little bit different. But I do think that, for example, Spenada Sky has done academic parent teacher team nights, and those look very different than your traditional conference. You know, I know we had a school that was doing, you know, student-led conferences. So there's a lot of ways to engage with parents to meet the needs of their students, and a lot of that is determined by the school leadership team at the school and how they go about that. So I suspect that that will continue to adapt and change as individual schools get feedback from parents and what parents want, and then work through, you know, how do we meet the needs of parents. My last comment about CCR Day is that if a student is having challenges at a school, we probably have already talked to that parent, right? Because that parent has reached out to us, teachers have reached out to that parent. So I think maybe how we envision that day this is finally the chance for the parent to talk to a teacher. That is not the model we use in San Juan School District. We are proactive. We want to talk to parents the second there's a need, or the second there's great things to celebrate. So I think as we think about that day shifting and changing, that's something to keep in mind of really what our model for parent engagement is. It's not just that day. That's just one more opportunity for the school to engage with families.
Okay. Thanks.
Two things I would add really quickly to keep in mind, board, is one thing is we went to a half a day, if you remember, to be able to count the day as an academic day of our, we have our school days. So we was able to count it for an academic day. And in our previous experience, some of our schools had already started to adjust where they were moving the original CCR day back and working with parents through a block of time later in the day also. There were already a few schools that were saying, our parents want to meet later in the day anyway, we're going to move it back. And some were saying, teachers don't come until 10 and then we're going to keep you till 6 or 7 because our parents want to meet later. So some of that was already moving that direction. And then the other thing I would make sure you're aware of is I dare say I've visited with a lot of schools. We've heard a lot of things. Most districts, I would say, I don't have the exact numbers and I would have to call every single one of them, but having a half-day parent-teacher situation for districts across the state is, I would say there's a very high percentage of districts that do it this way. This is not out of the box for our parents. Many of them shut down, count it as an academic day, and then have parent-teacher conferences follow that so that they can bring their parents in, but they still count it as an academic day. So anyway, just be aware.
The thing that I heard from really, I would say a large number of parents, are parents who have lots of kids and they couldn't fit it in. There was a very short time period, and then their question to me is, teachers are busy. They're teaching all day. I mean, when do I? And then when they're off, then are they expected to answer questions, meet with me after their regular scheduled time during the school day? When do you bother a teacher when you can't fit it all in because you've got more than one child or more than 2 children? So that was the frustration that I heard from lots of parents. They said, I've got kids at all 3 schools. How am I supposed to do that in an afternoon? And then they feel like
I
they're...
want to answer that real quickly.
Okay.
Because I've answered that before, and my answer is you never are bothering a teacher. We are in the business of education, and if we only speak to parents twice a year on CCR day or parent-teacher conference day, and we have concerns with education, we aren't getting nearly at the level we need to get to. You just say it's not bothering teachers. You need to feel free to email and schedule an appointment with a teacher when you need to have an appointment. And we are accommodating to parents, our stakeholders. And I'm very, very bold on that. Okay. And our teachers are great. They do that.
And can we have that go out from principals in our district to the parents? And so that everybody's on the same page, they all see that in print? Because I heard it from a lot of people that they're very conscious of, they don't want to, they know the teachers are very busy, overwhelmed.
Yes, speak to that.
So just to add to that, it's in probably every parent handbook we have, but it also, because we're a Title I district where every school's Title I, it is part of that parent compact. So that is explicitly stated in a variety of ways for every school, and that should be posted on every school website as well. But I mean, that's definitely something we can continue, to share and express. It sounds like that there's a need for that still, to give that. Right. And I think some of that maybe is the outcome of the pandemic, where we saw teachers so stressed and doing all of these things and so overworked.
Well, and you hear, they hear, and they're like, I don't want to be that parent who was, bothering the teacher. And I just heard a lot after that half day. It was frustrating for people to be able to feel like, that was my day and I missed it. I don't now.
And, some of that, I would say from all of the teachers, and I think Julie would say the same thing, that our teachers want to hear from parents. They want to know those parents. They know that helps them be more successful in their job. And if they're not always the one I mean, not that they mind calling, but sometimes it's good to hear from a parent to say, oh, I have this question or this need, and it builds that relationship. So I would say, you know, speaking from the teacher perspective, they would love it if parents would reach out, shoot them an email, say, hey, I'd love to meet with you and talk about this. I know they'd be excited about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now, Laura, back to the calendar.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it might be a good idea to reach out to the teachers and get a little bit of feedback on the CCR and the,
And the teacher day.
yes.
Okay.
And then if we could just have the two calendars next board
Okay.
meeting, does that
We
work?
can do that. Yep, we can do
Thank
that.
you,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Okay. I should ask you, Lucille or Nelson, did you have any comments regarding that? And Aaron, nice job on the screen split.
Are you referring to CCR day and the shortened day and parents being able to attend? Okay. Yeah. So, I will say specifically to Monument Valley High School, Nelson, we had a very high turnout of families at that high school. I think, in speaking in general about the River Region, you know, a lot of times when a parent comes to town, we'll call it coming to town, but sometimes that's the school. Whenever they come, we meet with them. We make that adjustment so that if they need to meet with a teacher, with someone else in the building, you know, we adapt for when they're there. Like we know that for a lot of our families, they're traveling, and to get to the school, you know, takes extra time and distance and gas money and all of that. So I would say the schools are very responsive in the River Region to that acknowledgement. And when a parent comes, we do everything we can. We meet their needs right then. So that is always the open door policy. I think, I mean, obviously COVID had a little effect on that, but I think we're back to how things have been. As far as the event, I would say with the high, you know, amount of turnout that we're having would be an indicator that parents are excited to engage back. And I don't mean just parents, families are excited to engage back with the school in a school event in a variety of ways. And so all of those events looked a little different by school in the River Region, but we did have a good turnout in all of our schools. And, you know, Barbara can address that when she comes up as well. I think she'll share some things with you as well, specifically to Bluff. But, you know, there are some parents that is always a challenge for, but we try to, you know, provide some incentives, and often food is part of that. So it allows for the whole family to gather, you know, with their students and with them, and, you know, providing those things that make it a little bit easier. I will say, you know, in my time since I've been down there, the one challenge that always comes up that lowers attendance is rain because of the roads. So anytime we have a lot of rain, I think we get a lot less people out because sometimes the roads get a little messy, as you well know. So I don't know if that answers your question, but. Absolutely. The door is always open. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the school day. We will figure out a way to communicate with that parent and get the teacher involved. I know, you know, when I was the principal down there, you know, I would have a para cover the class. I would cover the class. The teacher would jump out with the parent. They'd discuss whatever was needed, and then they'd jump right back in. You know, it's not a huge disruption. Sometimes that can look a little bit different in a secondary setting than in an elementary setting, but I know that our administrators and our teams at those schools, they want to communicate with parents. They want parents involved. We know that for students to be successful, like that is a key piece. Their family engaged in their learning is a key piece. So whatever that takes, you know, and I've seen that happen at a variety of the schools. When I've been in the building, I'll see a parent come in and I see the administrator working with them, getting input, whether it's from the counselor, school counselor, social worker, teacher, whatever. They're willing to say the parent is here, right here with us right now. Why are we going to put this off? We're gonna help with whatever the question is or concern is right now.
Okay, any more comments, Nelson or Lucille? Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll get information back hopefully by the next month. All right, we are going to go to the San Juan School District number 5 representation discussion. I think we can do that before 4. Then we'll probably have Mrs. Silversmith give her presentation and then go back. Did I give you enough time?
That is perfect.
Okay.
I think so. I felt it's important that we review and just again remind the board and stakeholders, listeners to this meeting, the steps and the things that have occurred to lead us to this point. I know there's a lot of concern over what is happening with the board positions and in particular District 5, what is happening with representation to District 5. And so again, I wanted to go back from the beginning and review some things, some steps, and just publicly state these and hopefully help solve or improve some of the frustration and confusion out there. If we remember at this time last year, pretty much around this time last year, December, January-ish, we were made aware that, you know, the county was going through a redistricting process, and the county has the responsibility for of redistricting and in any developing the maps for both the county commission and the local school board. They were going through that process. We were involved in watching those maps that were being generated. They were coming. The county was working with 2 different map drawing entities. They were working with a gentleman by the name of William Cooper, who is out of Florida. He's a well-respected in this field of redistricting, and he had actually served with the Navajo Nation in the lawsuit in 2018 on their council to help through that process, through that lawsuit. So the county commissioners were familiar with him, and they had hired him to be an independent consultant. And then along with Mr. Cooper, the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission office was involved and had produced some maps that they were advocating for. And if you remember, the option B map that we preferred on January 4th of 2022 was adopted. And that was a map that we preferred. But in January 18th, the county had another discussion and was going to take another relook at it. And in that meeting, though between the January 4th and January 18th, we had produced a video that we had sent out to stakeholders stating the information that was happening and it was transpiring. We had put out as much information as we could because we knew that in January 18th meeting, they were going to take another look at this. And we had at this point realized that if the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission plan, which they called the Eastland Adjustment Map, was adopted, which there was talk that it would be, that a number of incumbents would be moved out of their district. We identified that Mr. Black would be moved out of District 3. We identified that Mrs. Mon would be moved out of District 1. And we had looked at state law and decided what would happen in those events. Both of those would be moved into District 4 with Mrs. Cody. And we were very troubled by that because we could see by state law that if a board member still had tenure, they then represented that district. And if a board member did not have tenure, they were eliminated. And we knew that Mrs. Cody's tenure was going to end at the end of this year, and Mr. Black's tenure was going to continue. So Mr. Black was going to represent District 4, and we had always felt as a board, and still did, that local representation was very important. And so a video was produced. I have a copy of the video. I don't know that we want to take the time to watch it, but it was produced to put information out. 50 stakeholders did email the county with concerns. That was approximately 50. When we went on the January 18th board meeting, county commission meeting, their packet did show that approximately 50 emails were expressing concern. The county commission still, in the event, we spoke at that meeting as well, I should say. There was a number of board members that did speak. Mrs. Cody spoke, Mrs. Mon, myself, I think maybe Mrs. Black did, Mrs. Shumway did. Mrs. Black, going back a long ways. Mr. Black's over here. Anyway, in the event, the Human Rights Office, Human Commission of Office Rights map was adopted officially, and it put That map is now what is officially our redistricting map, and it has placed a number of incumbents in different districts. We were very much aware of Mr. Black being placed in Mrs. Cody's district. However, what led us to a step further was a couple of weeks ago, we were made aware by the opening of a ballot that Mrs. Shumway had been redistricted into District 5. And that had never been disclosed. I think because of the vagueness of the map, that we had never been able to really clearly see where those lines definitively were drawn around the Blanding area. We could not identify that. And so this became a big surprise to everyone. When we contacted the county, they confirmed that indeed Mrs. Black was redistricted into District 5. We knew from our research with District 4 what state law said, but this was maybe a little different situation because of that it hadn't been realized until very late in the game. Mr. Yellowman's name was already on ballots. He had already disclosed to run again, to be reelected. His name was on ballots. So in this event, the AG's office was contacted. I myself contacted the AG's office. The county, I know, worked with the AG's office to determine if for any reason state law should not be followed. All of the information I got back from the AG's office was that there was no reason that state law would not be followed. State law should be followed. And we knew from District 4 what state law outlined. It outlined that if there were two incumbents in the same district after redistricting, if one of those incumbents' tenure ended, they were removed, and the incumbent that then had tenure left would represent that district. So according to state law, Mrs. Shumway now would represent District 5, and that would open up District 2. Unfortunately, there's not time to have an election for District 2. We've missed that opportunity because of realizing this so late in the game. And so that moves us over to following state law on how to appoint a school board member from District 2. And that'll be actually the next agenda item that we'll talk about, but I don't want to dive into that just yet. But that's the steps that have transpired to lead us to where we now believe we are being instructed by the AG to follow state law, which state law says with Mrs. Shumway being moved into District 5 and having 2 years of tenure left, Mr. Yellowman not having tenure left, Mrs. Shumway now, after redistricting, will represent District 5 until her tenure has been completed, and we will have to move forward with selecting someone for District 2. That's what I know right now. I think it's important that our public knows that and that it's clear, where we're at with this. I think our board could look differently, and I think when our communities ask who their representative on the school board is, and they are told it's somebody maybe not living in their community, there could be confusion. And I think it's clear that it's very important that we are very clear, transparent, and bold about trying to allow our stakeholders to know exactly why we're here, and so that they understand and they have the best answers, correct answers for them to help them better understand the situation. So I don't know if there's anything more that needs to be said. If any board members have any comments or concerns or thoughts or directions we'd like to go, but
I would like to, maybe not right now. We could have at 4 we can have Mrs. Silversmith do her presentation, but I would like the video that we created advocating for the map for the San Juan County Commissioners to select a map that would leave each person in the area in which they live to represent. That's what we did 2 years ago as a school district. We have no control over the elections. We can't set boundary lines. The county commissioners are responsible for that after every single census. Every 10 years, every county commission in the country is responsible to look at the new population, the way the population has changed. So we had no control, but we tried very hard to advocate so that people would be represented by a school board member who actually lived in and close to the community as much as you can in an 8,000 square mile school district. So what happened was nothing that this board wanted to happen, and we advocated for a different map, but we were not considered or successful in that. So I would like that to be part of on our agenda or on our as part of our minutes and a part of our record for this board meeting to help people understand what we did 2 years ago as a school district.
Yeah. So you want to play that video?
Probably after Barbara does that, so we can keep on her. But I would like it to be part of this meeting.
Okay. Nelson, do you or Lucille have any comments? Okay, Lucille? All right. Oh, yes, go ahead. Did she say? Oh, sorry, I misunderstood you. Okay. So we're going to go ahead with you, Mrs. Silversmith. Oh, Steve, didn't you come? We'll go there and then we'll go back. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad you're with us this afternoon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello and yate. Thank you for this opportunity for me to share about my school. So basically, a lot of the things I presented to you or shared with you dealt and is based around our goals, our school goals, our 90-day goals.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll see what questions the board has. We reviewed your slides and we'll start with you, Steve, if you would like.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the whole brain teaching. And you had a sentence in there a little bit about what whole brain teaching is. That kind of going back to the left brain, right brain differentiation and merging those together. Explain a little bit more about the whole brain teaching.
It's the use of the whole brain. Basically, we felt like, as my team and I felt like at this moment, based on our WIDA data, the domain of oral language was, we could obviously see that our kids struggled in that area. And so there are many things out there that you can utilize to help build that oral language with your students. You've got PSYOP and you've got a lot of other ways of doing that, and this is one that we've had teachers look into, the whole brain teaching, being able to utilize every aspect of the brain, being able to use language and as it says in here, being able to use the whole brain in supporting what students and how they learn and how they express themselves, and using protocols or using movements. So a lot of it is using their hands and their speaking, and so just utilizing that whole brain of being able in various ways to respond with teachers. You can respond with teachers, you can respond to teachers, and they can also teach each other as well, the students. So there's a lot of oral language development happening.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Harry?
Okay. My question is, so on the language arts, specifically, well, let's go down just a second. We've got language arts, then ELL, and attendance. And by the way, attendance looks impressive to me. And
Good. We're concerned.
well, I know that because of after COVID, I think so good. It's always good to be concerned because we want to get to 100%, right?
Yeah.
So,
of course.
but so it's lower than, so 70% of the students K through 5 will reach their individual pathway progress, typical and above, as measured by Acadians. 60% is the state goal for K through 5. So if I understand this right,
It's K3.
I mean K3.
Yes.
I'm sorry, K3. It says K5 at the top, and then it says K3.
Well, our 90-day goal consists of K5, but if you go to the other slide, it does say K3, that's the Acadians goal.
Okay, so my question is 70%, if I understand this right, 70% of the students will reach 60%. Is that right? 70% will reach 60%?
Or 60% of the whole class, if you've got a whole class, 60% of them will be able to make typical or above progress.
Okay, all right, so I didn't understand this, so above, so 70% of the students,
So we
to me, and
will
I see
increase-
60 is the state's goal, that seems low, that it wouldn't be 100% of the students, or maybe, you know?
Well, there's just a lot of challenges that we face.
Okay.
And so, as far as having coming off of COVID years and looking at those particular goals, like, the very first year I felt like we did considerably well, if, you know, the data I'm showing you right there. As far as our group of students that made that typical or above progress, and so that's why we said, let's aim for 70% of our students in a classroom setting. Let's work through it and make 70% of them be able to reach typical or above progress, meaning that they're on their way to making that progress needed. They're on the path of making that, the progress of getting to be proficient readers.
Okay. Yeah, and that, I guess that was my question, because it's not reaching a specific point, it's progressing.
Yes, yes.
And so-
Progress.
Yeah, so I thought, I know it's tough. I know it is after, and especially after COVID and so much, just getting that culture built back in of education every day at school and at home. So anyway, Kay, thank you for answering that.
Nelson, did you or Lucille have anything for Barbara?
Yeah,
Are you there, Lucille, on the challenges? Did you have a specific question? Okay.
well, we do appreciate what we do get. That's what I'm saying. As far as twice a week, we've got a student advocate, social worker come to our school and work with our students that have those emotional needs. And we have a high number of emotional needs. And it's just that the challenge sometimes ends up being that the student advocate that's assigned to our school ends up having meetings or trainings or various other things that they need to take care of at other schools. So we just don't get the full amount of time that I feel, or that teachers and I feel, at our school on those 2 days that are assigned to us. And although we would love to see an increased number of days at Bluff for that kind of support.
Nelson? Okay. So my last question was, we did mention the attendance, and then the October 17th week, that was your biggest drop. And I have heard there has been a lot of sickness again. Is that correct? Is that why?
Yes, the last 3 weeks,
Yeah,
it has been like
I have
that.
heard
There's
that.
a lot of illnesses going on.
It's
Mhm.
tough, I know. I feel like we could get you guys back going again, and then something else comes in the way, so. And I wondered if that's what that was. It wasn't just them not coming, that was pretty much the
Yeah,
reason
there were a
why.
lot of illnesses happening, and we do communicate to parents that if a student is not well, yeah, they need
Sure.
to stay home and get better and, but other than that, they should be at school.
Yeah, I agree. So, just real quick, my other question with the student advocate. Christy, I guess this would kind of be with you too. We have one that shares in that area. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they actually don't just share in that area, it's the one from Bluff shares between,
Two other schools
Yeah.
up here.
yeah.
In this
and-
area.
and-
They're signed out on a student count basis, so looking
Oh,
at
okay.
the student population and trying to balance that. I don't know, as for Barbara's comment about losing a day due to trainings, I don't know if the trainings are falling on the same day every time, which might be inequitable to cross. I can look into that, but I'm assuming those are varying days the trainings are on. We do have to, every group of our organization is trained at a certain level, and so we poll teachers sometimes, we
Sure.
poll. But we can look into making sure that it's not always on the same day. We don't want one school to always be impacted by a training. It should be a variety of days, so that it's spread across all schools, all campuses. But as for how they're allocated out by a student basis, and a school that's got more students is going to have more at-risk kids, and
Sure.
we're seeing that. So.
Okay. Well, at least we'll look in and see if there's any support that can be given that might change that a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
okay. Thank you for
Awesome.
joining us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Have
Uh-huh.
a good rest of the day.
Thanks, you, Barbara. Go back to
Okay,
that
we'll let
video.
you go back to our appointment of a board member.
Did we want to watch that video?
Oh, yes, sorry.
It's probably a good
Yep.
time.
It's a great time. Thank you.
Yacht A and good day. My name is Ron Nilsson. I'm the superintendent for the San Juan School District. And I have been directed by the San Juan School District Board of Education to talk to the public about a matter that is very concerning to them and they feel will be very concerning to all stakeholders. The San Juan School District Board members are concerned about the most recent action taken by the County Commission to adopt a new school board voting district map. The board members feel strongly that all stakeholders, students, parents, staff, and public, are clearly informed and allowed input in the process. In the most recent county meeting, the County Commission voted to replace District Map Option B Modified with NNHRC Eastland Adjustment Map. And we'll speak to both of those maps in coming slides. This change of maps, if left to stand, results in some significant consequences that all should be aware of. Let's begin with Option B Modified Map and understand it a little better. This map was drawn by the leading expert consultant hired by the County Commission. A gentleman by the name of William Cooper drew this map. It's important to note that he did reach out for local input into this map. He called me as the superintendent representing the school district, and he sought such information as where do the incumbents live? Do they represent the community or regions in which they live? He wanted to know things such as bus routes and feeder systems, where elementaries would feed up to middle schools and high schools. Those things were important criteria to consider as he drew maps. And we also, as a school board and a school district, value that same criteria and believe it's critical. This map was officially adopted on January 4th, 2022 by the County Commission. On January 18th, 2022, however, an additional map was presented at the County Commission meeting and was voted to replace the Option B Modified Map. And this map is called the NNHRC Eastland Adjustment Map. This map was drawn by the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission Office. And as the school board looked carefully at this map, some great concerns did arise. First of all, this map, if you look closely, will see that 3 of our present incumbents would be redistricted into one district, District 4. And certainly that begs a lot of questions as to how we would move forward and what would happen in the event that this map stands as the final adopted map. In order to answer some of the questions that arise from this new map, let's turn to State Code 20A-14-201, and let's start with 3, drop down to 3A, because that's where it starts to talk about school board elections. It says redistricting does not affect the right of any school board member to complete the term for which the member was elected. So we know that each school board member, regardless of redistricting, gets to complete their term. However, it does not state that they're able to complete their term within the area of which they were voted in or were representing. So there could be a change in representation. 3B1, after redistricting, and that is a very important term to understand. After redistricting means after the new maps come into effect. And any finally adopted map would come into effect in January of 2023, a year from this month. So keep that in mind as we read through this code. After redistricting, representation in a local school board district shall be determined as provided in this subsection 3. If only one board member whose term extends beyond redistricting lives within a redistricted local school board district, that board member shall represent that local school board district. This is in the cleanest sense. One board member, after the map goes into effect, still has tenure, they represent that district. 3, however, if 2 or more members whose terms extend beyond redistricting live within a redistricting local school board district, the members involved shall select one member by lot to represent the local school board district. This is what we would have. We would have 2 or more. We would begin with 3, but in looking carefully, it says if 2 or more members whose terms extend beyond redistricting, the 3 that would be presently drawn into District 4, one of those, their term would not extend beyond redistricting. And ironically, that is the board member who lives in the region. Mrs. Lucille Cody lives in the Montezuma Creek area, which represents District 4. However, her term is completed on December of 2022, just before these maps would go into effect in January of 2023. So that would leave 2 board members that their terms would continue past redistricting to decide who would represent District 4, the Montezuma Creek area. One of those board members would be Mrs. Lori Mon, who lives in the Monticello region, and Mr. Steve Black, who lives in the Blanding region. Now, the school board finds either of these options troubling because they do not live in the local region of Montezuma Creek. They do not understand the individualism, the uniqueness, the personality. They're not firsthand aware of many of the things that are local to that community, the culture of the schools, and those important things that are valued. So the school board has always valued local representation that understands those critical things. But if this map were left in as the final map and adopted, state code would require that a coin flip between Mrs. Mon and Mr. Black would be decided to see who would represent the Montezuma Creek District 4 area. The other member who did not win the coin flip would be then appointed as an at-large member of the school board. So we could have 6 school board members for a time. If there is no board member living within a local school board district whose term extends beyond redistricting, the seat shall be treated as vacant and filled as provided in this part. So District 1, that was previously represented by Mrs. Mon in the Monticello region, would become vacant. And District 3, that was previously represented by Mr. Black, who lives in the Blanding region, would also be vacant. There would have to be a special election for both of those regions and those districts. The county commission would decide if they are 2 or 4 years and try to work through the process to set the correct staggering of the positions for the 5 different school board seats. Now just taking one last review of these 2 maps, and again trying to point out why the San Juan School District Board of Education greatly prefers one over the other. Let's look at this in a different light. Option B, modified, which the San Juan School District prefers, in our opinion, again, constitutionally is legal, and it does uphold the one person, one vote. It has its incumbents represent the region in which they live, and this is so important. And we believe this is a key ingredient that is unique to our county, to the makeup of our county, and something that needs to be greatly valued not only for this redistricting process, but also for upcoming district processes that play out. It also respects the district feeder systems that are in place, and it has drawn upon local input into it, things that we value greatly. The NNHRC Eastland Adjustment, which presently is the official map that was adopted on January 18th, we do feel is constitutionally legal, according to one person, one vote, but we feel it falls short in the other important areas, such as we will now have incumbents representing a region in which they do not live and are not fully aware of and familiar with. It does not account for feeder systems as well as the other map, and it certainly has not acquired input from the local school district. Now, San Juan School District Board of Education does feel strongly enough to take some action and to express their concern and to also to reach out to educate the community and stakeholders and parents. If you feel that you also have concerns and would like to accept a call to action, we invite you to go to sanjuancounty.org, the San Juan County official site, and up to the right, hit the Contact Us button, which will take you to a form to fill out that looks like this, where you put your name, your email, and your comment. We would ask that you would also request that the San Juan Commission revisit this item and finally and officially adopt the Plan B modified map. We also point out it's important to, under the departments, the down arrow, to click on that and to put in commission, so your comments and your input goes to the correct place. I hope this information has been helpful. I hope it's enlightening and allows you to realize how important the uniqueness of our region and our county is, and how critical it is that at times like this, we take action and we make sure that our input is heard and valued. As always, I thank you for your support of the San Juan schools and the students that are in our county. Thank you so much. That was painful.
Painful.
It was great. It was very thorough. Is it?
All right, you can move to the next.
Anyway,
Yeah.
just to conclude that all transpired. That's kind of the history of where we're at. And some things are happening very recent, as we've learned some of the things with District 5 now just recently. But we were very bold and very active in trying to, advocate for the map we felt would avoid this type of concern. So where we're at now, if we go to our next agenda item, is state law is also very clear on how a school board would go about appointing a school board member to serve on the committee to represent a certain district in a similar situation as the one we are experiencing. If you want to pull some of those documents up that are on the public section. So the first one you have there is actually the code. Midterm vacancy on a local school board. I don't know that I want to read all that, but if you've had an opportunity to read that, that's maybe just point out some of the things that are important. Is the school board has the responsibility to replace a board member, as I read it, within 30 days. It does talk about after 30 days that the county commission could step in, but we have 30 days to fill this vacancy. So in my understanding, this position will become vacant as of January 1st, but by January 30th, we should have named and appointed a board member to fill this position to fulfill the board's responsibility. I think there's timeline to do that. I think we're fine in the time that we have, and I'll submit some documents here that'll walk us through a timeline. The candidates declare themselves. We have a responsibility to give them the proper information, a notice, and to make sure they know where they turn in an application, the name and the email of the place that they are to apply. And I think, let me see, I don't know if you want to go down any further. We also have to tell them the date and time and place of the meeting, which we will do. And then we are required to interview in an open meeting each candidate. And so it's very different than maybe our paradigm of how we interview for job candidates, where we take them, one-on-one, close. They don't see the questions. In this, I've talked to Salt Lake School District. I reached out to them knowing they had recently gone through. Someone had told me they'd recently gone through this process. They were very intentional about sending out the questions at the exact same time the night before the interview. So the candidate actually sees the questions that we will, at the exact same time, usually a few hours or an evening before they're actually interviewed. The interview, I believe, could be a virtual interview or an in-person interview. Either way, we wanted to require that. So the district that is open is the Blanding district. So if we wanted, it'd probably be pretty convenient if we wanted to do in person to do that right here. But that would be a board decision. So if we go to the next document, let's pull up. This is just an example. I think I've already been, input has already led me to believe there needs to be some revised parts of this, because as I'm learning, there's no requirement for how long you've lived in that district. Anyway, I think in both this and in the announcement, it refers to how long have you lived. I don't think we need to have that, and I would recommend, and I'm planning on revising that. We do need their present address so that we can verify that they do live within the district. But other than that, that's an example with that one recommended revision of an application that would be submitted. And in here, I believe it talks about who to submit it to. Yeah, all things would go to the HR office, Mrs. Palmer. And we would then gather those. There's talks about a deadline. It gives a very clear deadline. The deadline on here to submit would be 3 p.m. on December 2nd. And it says exactly where it would go to. And then it does talk about them being available for, this says an electronic interview, but it could certainly be an in-person. That is the board. I would love the board to give me that direction of how to revise this tonight, of what you would like to see, whether it be an electronic interview or it would be an in-person interview. And then the next document on here would also need a little revision, but it gives you an example of how the position would be announced. That would be both on our district website. It would be placed in the paper as soon as possible, run as many weeks as possible. And that would go in the paper and on our website, and that would provide all the information as well. And we would revise both the application and the announcement to be consistent in however you'd like to see it happen, with in-person or electronic interview. So I think, what we would do is in our December 14th board meeting, we would set aside a block of time. Right here, I am estimating 6:30. Again, that could be changed as well. Could do it earlier, could do it later, but that's just me throwing out an estimated time to do interviews. And then we would we'd probably go to a closed session and name a winner. Maybe I'd have to look into that, but we would definitely identify a winner at that point, or a winner or a candidate to serve on the board, an individual to serve on the board, and then in January they would be sworn in to serve on our Board of Education representing District 2. Now, this timeline does not allow them to be identified early enough to go to the new board training. And that'd be awesome if it did, but really, unless we have a special board meeting, then I don't think we can do that with our present board schedule. But if we felt strongly enough that we could have a special board meeting. I think there's still time. We do need to advertise for at least 2 weeks, but I think we could still get that in there and move our board meeting up a little bit. But this present timeline does not allow that, if that would work.
Steve, did you have some questions? I can see you writing over there.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So as far as, did you want feedback from the board as far as electronic versus in person?
I would
or-
love direction from the board because the announcement and the application both have to clearly state that. So
Well, I guess I would like to have either option available. Either in person or electronic. I prefer in person, but sometimes electronic is necessary.
I think that could be done. I think it could say either or. They just have to declare how they're going to do it. But
I did have a question posed to me if there was anybody who was automatically disqualified from applying, specifically a school district employee. Is there anything in state code that prohibits a school district employee from running for school board? I don't know.
I don't know the exact code, but you either have to be, you're either a school board or an employee. You can't be both.
You've seen that before?
I have.
I'll look that up, but I have also seen that where someone was running from school board knowing that if they were elected, they were going to resign from their position. So, but I don't know that I have the exact code, so I'd want to look into that and verify that.
Okay, and then the last thing is we may want to look closely as to whether any closed session would be even available to us in this
I'm not
open
sure.
process
Yep.
of appointing a school board member.
Will do.
I kind of think that it
Might not be. I wondered the same thing.
So then how do we talk about it?
In the open. I think that's required.
And there might be little talk. Might come down to a vote. More vote than talk, but it would be open to either way.
So
People wanted to talk.
could we see them start, can we set their start date as January 1st so they can be included in? Or do we have to wait until they swear in? Because, I mean, when we were elected, we basically started January 1st, even though we were sworn in January. Because we really need them to go to USBA
Yeah,
to get familiar
they
with
could.
that.
I think so. Once we've named them, they would be like like they officially were voted in. They'd have the same
Yeah.
status, I believe.
And then we need to consider the hearing, or we have a hearing in January. What time is that public hearing gonna start?
You're talking in,
The
yeah,
federal impact
federal
fee
impact
hearing.
fee.
Yes.
We'd definitely want to
So we
align
need to
those.
make sure that we either do, we've gotta make sure that that timeline is.
Yep,
is
we'd
quite-
have to.
So can you pre-screen, or do you have to interview every candidate that applies?
I believe so.
Everything I've read, you interview all that apply.
Okay.
Now, under your executive, you have some example questions that were
Right?
revised for San Juan School District, but borrowed from another district. And they're under executive for a very distinct reason, so that those can all be controlled until the right time. All candidates that have applied receive them at the same moment or same time. Once they receive them, they'll have them, but they shouldn't receive them till that point. But if you have any comments or anything you'd like to see revised or changed, or any additional questions, I would ask the board members to email me those. And using my discretion, because we're not gonna have a board meeting, I will try to implement those suggestions as well as possible.
So do we want to wait until December to do that process, or do we want them available for new board training?
I would say it's more important to give the time available to people than,
The
you
training?
know, we can get the training, we can get
Okay.
the slides, we can get those things for them, but there's really not a lot of time before that.
Okay,
I agree.
okay. And then I guess you'll look at the agenda time and
Yep.
how that will all funnel
I'll
through.
build that into the agenda.
Do we have any more comments on the wording? I guess we can just look at it. We do. Yes, go ahead. Absolutely. Well, the only reason I question that, Nelson, is because the same thing happened with us, because we were elected to start, but we weren't sworn in until late in that January meeting. But we participated in everything come January 1. So that happened with every one of us that are sitting on the board.
Well, that's for the new board member training that is
In
held
December.
December 3rd.
Yeah.
But the January one, it's typical, every new board member across the state, or nearly every new board member across the state attends that January conference, but board meetings aren't scheduled necessarily before that conference in January, so they're officially sworn in. But once they're appointed and or elected, then they attend those.
Wait. No. Okay, so we're looking at the code, and I'm sure that we can run this by the district attorney on that code to make sure that we are following that correctly also. Okay, so, but I guess I'm speaking for myself, but we will also have to follow our legal counsel with our district attorney, with our attorney that we work through with the San Juan School District to make sure that the process that we're setting forth right now is also followed according to code, so.
So, yeah, let me just
Go ahead.
speak to that a little. The code is very clear that there's a window for the school board to move forward, and after that window, then they lose their responsibility to take action. So I think the board is going to be has to be very proactive in meeting the requirements of that law and moving forward. However, if in your efforts to seek legal counsel and move things forward legally, if any order comes down through a judge or anything official, then yes, that could stop. We could be ordered to stop the process and halt that until things play out. But that's what I think it would take. Otherwise, I think the school board would be not following through in the responsibility that state code says they should be taking right now. So this whole situation is just kind of awkward and a little bit frustrating. Is trying to, I mean, it's just confusing and awkward. The one thing I would add to this is I still don't understand the why behind the maps being adopted. I was going to say this earlier, but I did approach the county commission to ask them to help to explain the why. Why was that map more desirable and efficient in what they wanted to accomplish than the other map? Because it has caused some very concerns to us as far as representation. And this was during public comment of the county commission meeting. They did not respond to me, and I don't know if they will, but I did petition the county commissioners to put out a statement as to why they would choose a map that would do what it has done, the consequences in both our District 4 and our District 5, because it is very problematic. But all we can fall back on is state law, and state law says the county's supposed to move. And if you don't move, then I think the board will miss that window. But if you have legal action that gives us a different directive, then of course I'm sure the board will abide by any legal action that or directive that we're given. So.
Did you have any other comments, Nelson? Sure. Sure. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I do have another comment.
We do?
I do.
Oh, you?
Yeah.
I thought you said we do. I'm like, who's we?
I do.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. On the Board of Education vacancy, just a half sheet that's on the agenda there. Just a couple of words that, reading through it, I had a little bit of issue with. Second paragraph, they must fill out an application by December 2nd at 3 o'clock. I would suggest to submit it by 3 o'clock rather than to fill it out.
Okay.
Good catch.
And then second to last paragraph, bottom of that paragraph, will be decided by the 2024 election by the patrons. I would suggest using voters rather than patrons. Patrons includes like all of our, students, everybody.
Yep.
Stakeholders? You want a different word?
Voters.
Can do it.
Okay.
I have a question about, or a suggestion, because and maybe there's a reason why 3 p.m. is on there, but oftentimes people will see a date, and why not until midnight, or
just
why
the day.
3 o'clock? As long as it's submitted on that date.
It can be that date.
I see people get into all kinds of trouble saying, "Oh," and that is what it is. But why not just the date? And as long as it is received on that date, if it's received the next date, it's too late. But
The only reason the 3, and it's a minor reason, it really carries not a lot of weight, but is that you would have them towards the end of the workday and be able to gather them and move forward with your next steps or get things in line for your next steps. But that can all happen the next morning too.
it could happen. That's a Friday, right? And so that could happen the Monday.
Sometimes you like to
Monday morning.
kind
I'd
of
like to
line
see
out your
that
Monday morning by
removed. I've
Friday.
seen people not pay attention to a time as much as,
Well, even if it says midnight, it's still a time, but you're right. It's just a later time.
yeah, right.
So you're just like
Just-
on that date, just December 2nd. So if it comes in at 12:01.
It's too late.
Okay.
It's not that date.
Okay. Anything else?
I can verify Steve's question that an employee of the Board of Education cannot serve as a board member. That's in code.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that's what I
you.
thought.
All right. Okay. We have about 20 minutes. If we want to go into closed session, we need the discussion of personnel. Did we have a litigation and follow-up?
No.
Okay. All right.
Let me see. Look at my board.
Oh, and one more suggestion. I don't know if it's on the paragraph where it talks about a swearing in.
One sec, sorry. You can actually stay, right? Because we're just going to shut the curtain. We have a new system.
Ceremony.
Okay.
I don't know if
So,
it's ceremony.
sorry,
They
go
will
ahead.
be
I just
sworn-
could see they're packing
The
up.
new board member will be sworn in on instead
No
of a
ceremony.
ceremony. That
Okay.
kind of creates a picture that I don't think is accurate.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. All right. We have no more. We do not have any further discussion items, so we do have some items in closed session.
We have the provisional list that we'll go and look to. I did want to say about that, and we've said this last year, and I don't know if it was, I think we've got to be very clear. I'm hoping I can communicate this. We need to go into closed session as often as we need to for our provisional and renewal list. Whenever there's questions or concerns, that is very appropriate to go into a closed session. But last year we talked about, traditionally we went in almost every month, and I think you even mentioned that once, that we usually go in every month on this. If the board members don't have questions or concerns and nothing's changed, it may be a time when we don't go in closed session because nobody has questions or concerns about regarding the document. So tonight is the first time that you will see this document. I believe we need to go in closed session, and then from there, it'll be based on, do you have questions or concerns whether we go in closed
Okay.
session? Is that?
Perfect.
Just so that
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
great.
And I've learned that that's generally how it's handled, is that it's handled when there's questions or concerns, you go in closed session, but you don't feel like it's just what you do every month.
Right.
Anyway.
And would anyone like on the board, some discussion with the business administrator contract at this closed session? So that's an option. So I'll would anyone like to make a motion to go into closed session for the discussion of personnel?
I move to go into closed session to discuss personnel.
Motion by Mary,
Second.
second by Steve. Okay, roll call. Mary?
Mary Shumway, yes.
Steve?
Steve Black, yes.
Nelson? Lucille? Is she with us anymore? Lucille? Lori Mon, yes. Okay, we're in the majority, so. All right. We're going to shut our nifty curtain. We do need Christy and Julie.
Julie and maybe Laura.
Yeah, and Laura, yes, we do, please. Thank you. I don't know that she's there.
Just a second before we close it. Well, we'll close them, I just want.
No, they're bringing you a chair, so you don't have to stand. Yes, it is. I know, I feel like I had to be able to collapse that, but I can't, so.
Right? Okay. Oh, white noises. This makes me a little nervous with these mics
I know,
live.
me too. Can you white noise? We'll talk. Well, when Nelson comes on, you know.
Next month, so then we could go into closed session to discuss his contract. So are you in favor of pushing that to next month and having an evaluation in closed session next month regarding the business administrator?
So have the superintendent present to the board your evaluation of the business
I can
administrator.
do that, yep.
And then have that discussion next month?
Yes.
And
Okay.
And I
then,
would like to request a current, unless we want to do it, we can have, I mean, we need to have a contract.
Yes.
So that we can have time to review that, and I would like to have the initial contract that we,
I think that's on there now.
okay, great.
It is.
And then, And have
You have the initial contract now that you can look at for next
For
month.
next month. Are you comfortable with that, Nelson and Lucille? Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
is there a
Well, we would-
provision that the
okay.
board needs to do an evaluation
In your
of the
contract,
business
remember,
administration?
in some of the contracts I've read, the
Let's
board's
look at
done that. I would do like the odd year, and then you'd come back and do another one. I don't know.
Okay.
When I
let's
was
see.
talking to Richard,
And we'd have a more formal one.
the
one.
USBA does a,
You did me once on the USBA, you
right,
did.
and I think we
But
ought to
we liked
use
some
their
of it, we didn't.
services.
You remember, we
Yes.
liked part of it, we didn't
Right.
like part. It was a
Yeah.
lot of questions.
Okay, it says right here, the board shall conduct an evaluation and assessment on the performance of the business administrator annually. This evaluation and assessment shall be reasonably related to the duties and responsibilities of the BA, and any requests, instructions, or directives given to the BA by the board or superintendent. This evaluation is to take place in closed executive session held with the business administrator. Can you whip us one out?
And
Laura, what magic can you perform?
And I think more and more with the detail looking at open meeting law, we need to be careful on what we do in closed session regarding it, because it's real specific on personnel in generally what we can discuss in closed session.
Well, this
So there
one's-
may be parts of it we need to discuss in.
This one says this evaluation is to take place
Well,
in a closed executive
That
session.
just because that said it, that's not state code, that's not
Sure.
open meeting law,
Mr.
law.
Open Meeting
But-
Law.
An evaluation could go to closed session because that's
Yes.
getting into.
First
job
We're talking about professional competence.
So,
Mm.
So
Yes.
if you're doing an evaluation of an
That would
employee
be very
and
appropriate for closed session.
it's
But you're right,
appropriate
it
for
might be other
closed-
things we're discussing that aren't.
yeah.
Do you want to create your own evaluation?
I don't think that would be appropriate.
So we need to,
Well, should we schedule with USBA to,
there's no way we can do that before January 1st. I mean, we could find out, just ask.
no, I think we
Probably
could.
send it out pretty
Well-
quick.
I think we
What
could.
do you feel?
I feel that this that you're talking about, the annual survey, that's more for the benefit of the business administrator. Not necessarily for us to make a decision on whether to continue or not.
More for
No.
formative information. for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
And so in my mind, I would rely heavily on
What
the
you're gonna
evaluation
say.
that you're gonna give us as far as making a decision as to whether,
I've,
you know, to
you're
do that.
familiar with kind of how I've structured an evaluation. I brought it to you a couple times. I'll do it again.
okay. Would you take care of that before next board meeting? We'll have the contract is attached for us to read, and then we will go into closed next month.
For the evaluation part.
Yes, for the evaluation part.
Is there
Perfect.
any other additional information that you would like to see at that time for December? Anything
Not
else?
that I know of. Nelson, did you have a comment? Yeah. Sure. I absolutely think it could. You just, because I think what the superintendent will do is he will present and then you can ask any questions you feel are pertinent to that. And if they come off of that letter, go right ahead. Okay. Just, okay. All right. I think we are adjourned.
Can I add
Oh,
one
go
thing
ahead.
that, in our earlier discussion about
Not adjourned, but.
the application for a board member, the announcement, looking at the code that does say a member of a local school board may not during the term members in office also serve as an employee of that board. So we've answered that question. However, the one that I couldn't find anywhere, I didn't have does say an individual seeking election to a local school board shall have been a resident of the local school board district in which the person is seeking election for at least 1 year immediately preceding the day of the general election at which the board position will be filled. So there is a 1 year requirement to be in that district. So I think we leave that in the application.
And so could we put the other part in the application just as a notice to the school district employee part?
That they can apply?
Well, just have it known out there, you know, not keep it a secret that.
That's a requirement.
Yeah.
So in the paper, in the application, online, means to everywhere.
To state that if you're an employee, you're not,
That,
or this
eligible.
1 year.
both.
Okay, both.
I think
All right.
both.
We can reference the code in that paper.
Yeah.
You can just
Yes.
reference the code and put that language in there.
Yep.
We are on break until 6 o'clock. Thank you. What school is she from?
Bluff Elementary. And then her thing is right here. She's Bluff, so if somebody wants to read it.
Erin, are we off? Are we still broadcasting?
Yeah, it's still broadcasting. Things rebooting for some reason.
God, it's like.
Okay, now, we need to go on.
Yes, we do. Here.
You have earned it.
Okay. Tammy was nominated by Barbara Silversmith, the Bluff Elementary School principal, and this is what she said. Tammy has done an amazing job in keeping Bluff School building clean, tidy, organized, and shiny. She is aware of what needs to be wiped down daily for cleanliness and for safety purposes so we can stay as safe as possible. We all appreciate her dedication and hard work to Bluff School. She has a nice sense of humor, and we all enjoy and has a great demeanor about her. Big shout out to Tammy. Thank you. We appreciate what you do for our district and the school.
Newsletter.
Oh, yes.
Newsletter worthy.
Perfect. Okay, Thank you. And thank you for being here tonight.
Really appreciate it. You do a great job.
All right.
I want to turn your mic back around here.
I like it.
All right, we have a few public comments, and so, Barbara, would you like to come and do yours first? Yeah. You just come right on up, and we give you 3 minutes, and then I think we have a couple that are emails, so go ahead.
Okay, this mainly is just,
Will you see if your mic's on?
Okay, there you go. This mainly is just to take a moment and celebrate my Bluff staff, and to the school board members and also to the public, and just let everybody know that I have an amazing staff at Bluff Elementary School. As you see, some of the things that were said about Tammy, and just the rest of the staff. They do an amazing job, and there are a number of things that they do very well. And I want to just mention a few things. One is they work hard in keeping a very, or a positive climate at our school. If there's an issue, we work through it, we resolve it, and move on, because we feel like we're a family, and that's what, normally in the family situation, that's what you do. But, so I wanted to say that, and then we've got an amazing social committee that really brings us together to celebrate each other, and during holidays or just birthdays or various things that they do, and I feel like that helps create that positive climate as well. And then I've got an awesome set of teachers that teach kids every day, and they are amazing. They come together and analyze their data very well, and based on that information they gather, they look at how they can help and support students. They make plans, they make next steps, they follow through, and it's just amazing too, because when I ask them for some things to be prepared, they're always prepared for those, and that helps us to be able to create an excellent PLC meeting, or any other meeting that we have, a PBIS meeting, and all these acronyms that we have, all those various meetings, and it just is so helpful, and we get the work done and know what we need to do for our next steps if we are prepared, and they do that so well. And all the way to my support staff. They treat the students very well, and I appreciate that. And they take the time to get to know them, and the teachers do home visits so well. They have an over 90% of their families they visit every year. And so I just want to share that out and to my staff and let you guys know that I do have an amazing staff, and it's a wonderful place to come to work to every day. Thank you.
You missed somebody. You also have a tremendous leadership in that building, a tremendous principal. So, yes, I echo everything you said.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Thanks,
and
Barbara.
Thank you, because so many times our comments that come in are negative, and we get that because we're here to solve problems, but it's nice to have positive comments and positive feedback, especially for your wonderful school, and thank you for the good job that you all do. We appreciate it.
Yes, plus we have a beautiful school.
You do, so thank you for coming in. Okay, Eva.
So this is the only one that we have. This is a petition that was received from Principal Kim Schaefer. The petition wording was drafted by a scholar at Whitehorse High School and is signed by 163 of the students from Whitehorse High School. And the petition is titled, Petition for Lifting the Mask Mandate at Whitehorse High School. Scholars are tired of wearing their masks in school. The ear loops of the masks are too tight. They cause a constant aching from behind our ears. Scholars are also constantly losing or misplacing their masks, leaving a lot of trash behind. According to a study in Environmental Advances, a single mask can release as many as 173,000 microfibers per day into the sea, which will eventually increase pollution. Scholars also see no point in wearing masks at school when they don't see anybody wearing a mask in public areas. When there is a home game in any sport, the opposing team doesn't wear their masks. In San Juan County, Whitehorse High School is one of the few schools that still has a mask mandate. Furthermore, the school has wasted a lot of money buying masks to supply for the staff, scholars, and even visitors who visit our school. Even with this kindness, scholars will still throw a fit and not want to wear their masks. There have been several incidences that have happened at the school with kids who don't want to wear their masks. Teachers are also tired of constantly reminding their students to wear a mask when nobody seems to want to listen. We, the undersigned, respectfully request that San Juan School District Board of Education make masks optional for Whitehorse High School.
Is it my understanding that petition is being sent to the Navajo Nation?
Yeah, I can comment to that. Yes, it already
Okay.
has been.
Oh, it has been.
It has been forwarded to them as well, and to the health department of the Navajo Nation as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anything else, Eva? Okay. All right, you're welcome to stay. We're just gonna conduct business, or you're welcome to leave. You don't have to be here while we finish up, but thank you again for coming. All right, so we are now to our consent agenda, so I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to. Second.
Okay, so, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, our first possible action item is portrait of a graduate next steps. So that would be adopting the mission statement. So do I have a motion for that?
I move to adopt the revised mission statement.
Okay, I have a motion by Steve. Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, we'll definitely do the Navajo translation.
Yes, they said definitely they will do the Navajo translation. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Did you get that, Lucille? Eva, sorry. Okay, we have the contract for the Utah Food Bank. So if I have a motion to approve that contract. Okay, motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, San Juan School District Secondary School Winter Activity Schedules, 150-mile form requests. A motion?
I move to accept the San Juan School District Secondary School Winter Activity Schedule 150-mile request forms.
Okay, motion. Do we have that one on there?
No, they'll
Well, he
come
just
next
seconds
month.
the motion.
And we will get a new list of games for our independent team at Navajo Mountain next month.
Okay. Did we get the second?
However,
Second.
maybe I can't get it on
Seconded my
there.
motion, if that's
Okay.
what he was doing.
All right. Okay, so, any more discussion on that? Just to clarify, Navajo Mountain will bring their request next month as it was not submitted for this board meeting with that independent schedule. So,
Yep.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So San Juan School District School Board's next step to appoint a board member, and everyone,
I think we're clear.
well,
on that.
anyhow, let's just go with that. What?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, let's just go with that.
I don't know if there's a
I don't know
action.
that we need an action item.
I don't know if we do unless somebody feels, I mean,
I was going to make one.
okay,
Go right ahead.
Okay, I move that we interview candidates for School Board District Number 2 on December 14th. And modify the advertising to include restrictions that we talked about first the school board employee, and the second 1 year in the district.
Actually, that's in code. You do have to live in the district a year.
Yeah, include those
Okay.
requirements in the advertisement.
I see.
Okay.
And have them due on December 3rd, anytime, not establish a 3 o'clock meeting, and leave the rest of the details to administration to have that happen.
Okay.
Second the motion.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Lucille, did you have a vote? Okay, thank you. We are not going to do the school calendars. We requested more information to come back from that, so I don't see any other items on that. We'll go to the information items, Superintendent.
So our next board meeting is December 14th, district office and virtual. Be aware that coming up Friday is Veterans Day, no school, so that'll be a 4-day weekend for us, or 3-day weekend for us. We do want to make sure that the board is very much aware and know that you're invited to attend our Heritage Language Conference on the 18th in the Arts and Events Center. It's back in person, and we're excited for this event, and so we just want to invite you to attend with us if you can.
What time is that at?
I'll get more information out to you. I'll get it out. Thanksgiving break holidays now made the calendar at November 23rd through the 25th. Our new board member workshop on December 3rd. We'll have at least one new board member that will be hopefully available to attend that, and I'll work with them on that matter. And then be also aware of the USBA January mid-year conference coming up in January. So.
And why is it a mid-year I mean, I think that's
I don't know.
not
Maybe
accurate.
maybe
it's
that's
not actually a mid-year. It's just,
okay.
it's an annual.
Annual. All right.
Yes. Not that that's, but
Yep.
it's an annual
Okay.
conference.
Sounds good. Annual.
And, okay, so will we have on our agenda next month to visit COVID issues again? It used to be on every month, and you had mentioned it's been off for a while, but
I would just say, like any agenda item, if you feel that you'd like to see that on there, get a hold of me, get a hold of the president.
That's
Let's
what
put it. Okay.
right now,
Yep.
I'm telling
you're
you.
getting-
So
COVID.
let's add that. And then based on Barbara's comments, since she was here and she waited to give her comments, let's start giving the principals some time to address us as well during their regular time. Because we asked them questions, but we haven't really said, now, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your school that we haven't asked you?
We can just have that
Can we-
question. Do you want to make sure you ask that?
Sure.
That's your assignment. How's that? Did
Sure.
you ask that every time?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure,
perfect.
we can handle it that way.
Okay, that works well. All right.
Just remind me.
Well, okay, we actually need to go back to an action item. Number 4, there was a date that was incorrectly given, so I'm going to open this up to have the motion amended.
I move that rather than having the applications due on December 3rd, as I stated in the motion, which passed, to change it so that it is December 2nd, as stated in the documentation that was given to us.
Okay, motion by Steve.
Second.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Lucille? Okay, thank you. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. 6:15. Not a record, but.